Swaminathan Mahodaya is one of our Vidyanidhi participants, and he lives and he works in Detroit, USA, in the IT industry for a software company. He has designed and created the logo for the Vidyanidhi series, Yesterday Equals to Tomorrow. I request Swaminathanji to kindly explain the concept and launch the logo along with Praveena Guru.
Namaste. It's such an honor and a privilege that I get the opportunity to unveil the logo for Vidyanidhi, Yesterday Equals Tomorrow. Before we take a look at the actual logo, I wanted to quickly provide you with some of the design guidelines we had in mind while selecting the logo. So when Praveena explained the concept of Vidyanidhi, Yesterday Equals Tomorrow, we felt the logo should reflect the theme Yesterday Equals Tomorrow, and it should convey that what we often perceive as new is recycled items from the past. Second guideline was it should be a simple logo that's very easy to reproduce on any medium, be it print material, website, or on any other object. And plus, it should have an Indian theme to it. It should reflect that teachings and wisdom from ancient Indian literature gets applied in the current day and age. Having said that, let's take a look at the logo. Along with the logo, we also have a quick 10-second theme or jingle music for the logo that we are unveiling now. Now for the logo. So now that we have seen the logo, I'll start with the most obvious one. Y equal to T, which is in the middle of the logo, signifies yesterday equals tomorrow. The next thing in the logo is the letter Y uses a Sanskritam style font to signify yesterday or the past, and the T is in a digital kind of a font to signify tomorrow or the future. Now the color for the letter Y is in maroon, or the color of kumkumam, which signifies the rich Indian heritage. And the color for T is in blue, which is to reflect the sky, which is infinite. So the idea is our past is going to get recycled infinitely into the future. There are 4 arrows that go around Y equals T, and the 4 arrows signify the 4 Vedas and the 4 Yugas, Chatur Yugas, Chatur Vedas. And the arrows move in circular motion, and they have earthy tones to signify the concept of recycling. So there you have it, the logo for Vidyanidhi, Yesterday Equals Tomorrow.
Thank you, Swamiji. And now, before we begin our Samaropam Karyakram, I would request Kiran to kindly play the invocation song sung by our Vidyanidhi participant, Kala Ashok.
मैत्रीं भजत अखिलः जयत्रीं मैत्रीं भजत अखिलः जयत्रीं आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत आत्मवदेव परानपि पश्यत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत युद्धं त्यजत स्पर्धां त्यजत त्यजत परेष्व अक्रममाक्रमणं त्यजत परेश्वर क्रममाक्रमणम् जननी पृथ्वी कामदुर्गास्ते जननी पृथ्वी कामदुर्गास्ते जनको देवः सकलदयालु जनको देवः सकलदयालु दाम्यत दत्त दयत्वां जनता दाम्यत दत्त दयत्वां जनता श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां श्रेयो भूयात् सकलजनानां.
Thank you, Kala Ashok, for the beautiful rendition. Now I would like to invite Neena Reddy to please introduce the Samaropam Karyakrama.
Namaskaram. I cannot believe the day has finally arrived. I feel as if I'm back in college, putting this whole event, the Karyakrama together. And right at the beginning, I would like to thank our Guru Praveena for giving us this opportunity and for trusting us with this concept. I have always believed that when we desire something and have good intentions, the whole universe will conspire and make sure it's a reality. Wanting to learn Sanskrit, wanting to speak in Sanskrit was one such desire. Shailaja, a dear friend and well-wisher, has always understood my dreams and desires and has always guided me in the right direction. Introducing our Guru Praveena to us was one such step. Between Shailaja and me, we were able to spread the word around in our different friends' circles. And very soon we had 30 odd, very eager, enthusiastic people who were willing to learn Sanskrit. This was in the month of December, just about 6 months back. The lockdown days made our learning possible without too much of a distraction from the real world. We are fortunate to be with Guru Praveena, who is so knowledgeable, so patient, and so perfect to tutor us. Guru introduced us to her Vidyanidhi series along with her teaching. And very soon we were hooked and amazed by the information from our ancient texts and our masters. Through these monthly interactions, we were drawn into a beautiful world of yesterday and how that is impacting our today and tomorrow in all fields, whether it's music, dance, technology, science. Today is the culmination of a Vidyanidhi and the birth of Jnananidhi, which will evolve later on into the Kriyanidhi series. Today, when I stand before you all, I'm overwhelmed with a sense of wonder and gratitude. Our core committee, comprising of Asha Bhagini, Kala, Sushi, Sujata Shankar, Sujata Mundra, and Shailaja, has been simply amazing. And not just the core committee, it's been everyone who's been involved. So my namaskarams to them wholeheartedly. Creating, conceptualizing, researching, and enacting has left all of us, I think, quite emotional, and me fully grateful. Yes, we all intend taking this dream of our Guru Praveena to whichever direction, whichever heights she desires. Guru, this is our Guru Dakshina to you from the depths of our hearts. Thank you.
Dhanyavadaha, Neena. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neena. Now, in the following Karyakram, the participants will share their learnings applied in different circumstances of our life in a very creative and interesting way. The knowledge treasure that Bharat possesses is immeasurable and precious. Whatever we present here is the tip of the iceberg from the vast ocean of knowledge. So we've got 6 groups whose presentation will be played. The first one is Why Do We Do What We Do? Presented by Sushi, Raji, Sudha and Geeta. Kiran, please play.
Hi Sudha, hi Raji, Geeta. How lovely to see all of you. How have you been?
Very busy, ladies. My daughter's wedding is coming up now,
Oh, is that so? When is it?
next month.
Oh, I love our wedding. So much color, so much happening.
Absolutely. But I'm having such a hard time arguing with Varsha about everything. She's questioning everything, starting from why should we get up so early in the morning?
Oh, that's easy. Brahma Muhurtam is the creator's hour. It's the time when there is an abundance of oxygen, peace, quiet, a certain conducive atmosphere when there is natural production of melatonin, which is a mood stabilizer. It boosts your immunity, increases your energy levels, and enhances the reproductive system. Your nervous system is also in a state of natural equilibrium, which reduces your stress levels and makes you calmer. The benefits of rising early are corroborated by evidences in Ayurveda, which acknowledges it to be the time when sattva manifests itself, eradicating rajas and tamas. Use this time to recreate yourself. Basically, wake up at Brahma Muhurtam and create your me time. And remember that most top achievers in the world start their days really early. Not without reason is it said, Brahme Muhurtam Uttishtet Tvasto Rakshartham Aisham.
And there are a number of small things that we can do after getting up before dawn, which makes a big difference, you know. For example, the sages have mentioned that after waking up and sitting up for a few minutes of prayer, we should touch Mother Earth with our palms, apologizing for the pressure we are going to put on her. The energy within the body while sleeping is static energy or a potential energy. As we get up, it becomes kinetic or a dynamic energy. As we touch Mother Earth, the static energy, which is impure, leaves the body and the pure energy fills in. And remaining humble to the place we live in also gives us a mental balance, right?
So lovely.
Wow, even I didn't know all this. I will tell Varsha all this and maybe get her to talk to you too. Meanwhile, I have another problem. Her favorite aunt is traveling from New York and she is refusing to travel on Ashtami and Navami. And Varsha is making a big fuss about that also.
Raji, what is the reason behind that? Even I would like to know that.
It has to do with the phases of the moon, Geeta. See, the moon has a typical cycle starting from Amavasya, one Amavasya to the next. Now, if this cycle, every day the moon moves 12 degrees. And so each day is called as a Tithi. And that's why we have Pradhamai, Dvitiyai. And as all of you know, the 8th and 9th day are called as Ashtami and Navami. In this cycle, whether it is Sukla Paksham from Amavasya to Paurnami or Krishna Paksham from Paurnami to Amavasya, the 8th and 9th days, the moon is farthest from the earth and they are not very bright days. And the gravitational pull also is the least on these days. So it was considered that these days were not very auspicious. And people were encouraged to spend these days in bhakti. That is why he used to say, right, Ashtami anniki Krishna Nenchuko, Navami anniki Rama Nenchuko. We have Gokula Ashtami and Rama Navami also. And people started tracking the calendar, and when they saw the moon grow, it was considered auspicious. And when they saw it wane, it was considered inauspicious. All this has its basis in Jyotisha Shastra, which is one of the Veda Angas. And psychologically, since everyone cannot be positive at all times, when auspicious days were nearing, People were forced to think and work towards that date, and to create a balance in faith, some days were considered as inauspicious.
Oh, there's so much to all these things. You know, I was just thinking of the wedding, and for me personally, the ritual I like best at all these weddings is when the priest asks the young couple to come out and look at the sky and look at Vasishta and Arundhati. And the kids are always laughing because, you know, looking at the sky at broad daylight and trying to look for stars. But the fundamental reasoning behind that is so beautiful. Vasishta is part of the Saptarishi, or the Western Ursa Major constellation. Vasishta and Arundhati are twin stars which revolve around each other. Neither is static, neither is dominant. So they complement each other. The priest, therefore, is actually telling the young couple to be like Arundhati and Vasishta, who were considered the ideal couple, to be on an equal footing, neither dominating and neither being the follower.
So beautiful, and just the kind of thoughts that would resonate with my daughter. I really, really wish she listened to all this.
I know, I love this conversation, you know. I think we should get together, our children and grandchildren, and talk to them about these things and a lot of other similar things. In ancient times, our sages had the knowledge and the wisdom to formulate our habits and practices.
Unfortunately, the logic behind these has been lost over time, and subsequent generations have just been adopting the practices without the reason.
I'm happy that some generations are questioning this, though it seems to be a token rituals.
I know, but this just might open the doors to a better understanding and an acceptance of a very healthy and scientific way of life. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I'm sure it will, Sushi. But ladies, you have to excuse me. I have so much work. Hoping to see all of you at the wedding next month.
You bet.
Sure, Raji. Let us know if we can help in any way.
Definitely, definitely. And anyway, I will see you in Sanskrit class on Monday. Bye.
Bye.
All of you have a wonderful day.
Bye.
Thank you. Our second presentation is Party's Pearls from Neena, Nishantji, Anju, and Shailaja. Kiran?
Namaste, Ratish.
Namaste.
How are you?
Long time no see. Where were you?
Very busy, Ratish. Very busy. I have got grandchildren. They're keeping me busy. And with the lockdown now, all the families around, and then you have to manage this, that, and the other. It is a wonderful time. At the same time, very, very busy. Very busy. But,
Lucky.
you know, when I see my grandchildren, when we're all eating together, I get very concerned.
It is something natural because we don't eat the way they do. We never ate the way they do. And we were healthier. If you see the children, we were much healthier than how they are now. But of course, we never had this.
So, yes, Ratish. Look how young you also look. I mean, you are also a grandfather now, but you know, I think it is something to do with our eating habits. I think we need to convey that to our grandchildren.
I am shifting to my grandchildren's diets now. They don't allow me to do anything else. But
Fantastic, fantastic. Very nice, very nice. So I can only give them a certain knowledge about food because you know it, no, Ratish. I had done only my, in our BSc when we went to college together, I only graduated from my nutrition science. But after that, you went off and you went into Ayurveda and you're a doctor today. So I was thinking that I should definitely seek your help in this because it is very important for me to convey to my grandchildren.
No, whatever little I know, I will be happy to share. Ayurveda is for everybody. It is not for anybody.
You're very, very thankful for that. So coming back to it, the maximum I can tell is Papa, you can have this at a certain time of the day, and then you can have fresh food, home cooked food, hot food, and when you sit down to eat, it should not have any stress. Phone you should not see, TV you should not see. You should sit in love, and then you have to respect your food. This is what I tell Ratish.
You are speaking pure Ayurveda now. You are speaking pure Ayurveda. Charaka mentioned the same things. And you have reached there without any studying Ayurveda. That is fabulous.
But I would like to, you know how they look up to grandmothers for more information and more knowledge. So I don't want to appear ignorant. That is why I'm making this call to you.
That is okay. Tell me, what do you want to know? I'll tell you whatever I know.
I want to explain to them about how guna and what you eat can influence them.
That is very important, because the gunas, there are plenty of gunas, 20 types of gunas in Ayurveda. But basically what you are going to tell them is about the sattvic, rajasic, the mano gunas, right? And mano doshas.
Yes, that is enough. That is enough to make the children understand.
So simply tell them whatever brings some positive feelings in them, that is sattvic. Whatever stimulates them to do certain things, strong things, anger and such things, those will be rajasic. Whatever delays them, whatever keeps them stagnant or stationary, that will be tamasic. Tamasa means dark, tamas. So in the dark you are not able to move forward, that means it is stopping you. Rajasika is, you take very spicy food, you get all stimulated to fight and all those things. Satvika is something that you take prasads and all, you are very peaceful. So this is the simplest way to tell them that Satvika will always be good for you. It will be easy on the stomach, it won't stimulate you, it won't harm you, it won't cause any ulcers. Ulcer is caused by hari, vari, kari. Okay, so that is it. So just simply tell them whatever they like, and whatever brings them the positive side inside them. They feel comfortable, that is your sattvic food. And whatever is stimulant, that is rajasic. And whatever, after taking a food you feel sleepy, drowsy and all those things and causes problems in the body, that is tamasic food. Simple.
Oh, you really simplified it for me, Ratish. Because I remember my grandmother, when I think back when I was a 10-year-old, she would always say, Subbu, you should have only food that is good for you. And it is sattvic food. When she would tell me that, I will not really understand, but somewhere it registered in my mind. So this is what I want to convey to my grandchildren, Ratish.
That answer, the glow in your face is because of that food only. Your food
makes you make me feel so shy.
So I can't see you blushing now. We'll have more talk about this.
I will definitely call you up for any other information. Thank you so much. Bye-bye. Namaste.
Bye.
Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Dehamashritah Pranapana Yuktaha Pachamyanyam Chaturvidham Vasvaha
Thank you, Nina, Pagini and team for that. And now we have the third presentation, Inspiration from Bhagavad Gita by Narayan Mohanji, Renu, and myself, Sujata. Renu has gone through a lot of problems related to her business and finances during this uncertain and tough time of COVID. She has been a leader par excellence. She has always been motivating and positive in her approach. She looks upset and dull today. What happened, Renu? Why are you looking so upset? Why are you depressed? I have never seen you like this.
You know what's happening in the global scenario. It has affected me with a lot of financial problems. health issues at home. A lot of known people are affected. I just don't know what to do. I'm completely low down and depressed.
So if you're going to be depressed, Renu, and down, what will happen to your business? What will happen to the people who are working for you? What will happen to your near and dear ones? People are not well at home and they look forward to you. And if you are going to be upset, what's going to be their plight? You have always been a leader and you have always been an influencer where people have followed you. People around you look up to you, Renu. This reminds me of this particular shloka of Bhagavad Gita.
यद्यदाचरति श्रेष्ठः तत्तदेवोतरो जनः स यत्प्रमाणं कुरुते लोकस्तदनुवर्तते.
These are the words said by Sri Krishna to Arjun, and see how it's relevant today. So this is the solution for our situation today. An extremely important but subtle point made by Krishna is hidden in the phrase, ideal person does. Shreshta acharati yata yata. You are a leader and you should lead by example. Therefore, yesterday is equal to tomorrow if we can link to this. During these current times, during this COVID uncertain times, we are supposed to have social distancing, wear our masks, stay indoors, use our time efficiently instead of cribbing about the situation. So it's all about leading by example. So now, Renu, you have understood the leadership lesson, how to lead by example. What would you like to add?
उद्धरेदात्मनात्मानं नात्मानमवसादयेत् आत्मैव आत्मनो बन्धुः आत्मैव रिपुरात्मनः बन्धुरात्मात्मनस्तस्य येनात्मैवात्मना जितः अनात्मनस्तु शत्रुत्वे वर्तेदात्मैव शत्रुवत्.
One should lift oneself by one's own efforts and should not degrade oneself. For one's own self is one's friend and one's own self is one enemy. You are your own friend when you use your personality towards your own progress, and you become your own foe when you use the very same equipment to go downhill.
Emotional strength is very important today. And leaders have to be very strong. And they have to have complete control over their emotions. We cannot be attached to the results. Get up and act. Have the courage to come out of the darkness. Don't be in delusion. Therefore, yesterday is equal to tomorrow. In today's time, when so many people are getting affected, getting emotional is not going to solve the problem. Rather, it may complicate it. So we have to have complete control over our emotions to help ourselves and others.
यत्र योगेश्वरः कृष्णः यत्र पार्थो धनुर्धरः तत्र श्रीर्विजयो भूतिः ध्रुवा नीतिर्मतिर्मम.
Where there is human effort, irrespective of the situation, we have to do our role without attachment. And when our human effort is there, God will be supporting us. So when divinity and human effort get together, then we will be prosperous and successful.
Gita, the song of God, is part of the epic Mahabharata, which is the story of a great war fought between two sets of cousins, one set noble and the other crooked. On another level, it is a battle that rages in our minds and hearts each day. Each day, we are confused about what the right thing to do is. And we wish we could run away from the battle rather than face its consequences. But Krishna, who lives in all of us, the small, still voice of our conscience, tells us clearly and loudly what we ought to be doing. Gita is Krishna's dictate, gentle but no-nonsense dictate to his confused and nervous friend Arjuna, and through him to all of us.
Dhanyavad.
Dhanyavad.
So that was inspirations from the Bhagavad Gita. And now we move on to the fourth presentation, Styles of Traditional Storytelling in India by Asha, Anu, Reggie, and Suma.
Namaskaram. Sahitya Sangeeta Kalavihina Sakshat Pashu Priksha Vishanahina. This Subhashitam in Sanskrit conveys our civilization's view that without our arts, music and stories, we are just animals without tail and horns. Older a civilization, enormous are its reservoir of stories. Our stories serve the purpose of protecting our culture, knowledge and beliefs when many of the invaders tried their best to destroy it without a trace. Our stories subtly hit philosophy and sciences that were passed through them to future generations, and it just needs to be uncovered. Asha ji, a professional storyteller herself, gives her take on stories. Asha ji?
Shiva, can't you entertain me with a story? Demanded Parvati. Shiva obliged. You see, even gods cannot escape the fundamental duty of the husband pleasing the wife. So goes the tale in the first ever known ancient text of stories called the Brihad Katha or the Great Tale by Gunadhyay. Unfortunately, much of it has been lost today. But luckily, we have the Katha Sarit Sagara or the Ocean of Stream of Stories by Somadeva. It is a voluminous text with many stories. If only we take the time to look into our ancient texts, we will find many stories.
Thank you, Asha ji. Your craft was very visible from that. Anuji, could you please tell us how stories were passed on through different techniques in India?
Stories are a way of looking at life. They are an important part of our culture. If you look at our music or dance, in fact, many of them do have either direct narration of stories or suggestions of a story in context to our epics. Today I am going to mention some of the styles of storytelling in India. Kathakali got evolved as a full dance theatre to tell the stories of Ramayana and Mahabharata. Kalamkari is an art form that depicts stories from our Itihasa on textiles. Pandavani is a style which uses songs to tell the stories of the Pandavas. For us, stories of our ancestors are not just something that belongs to the past, but they surround us wherever we go.
Thank you, Anuji. That was informative. In a vast country like India, surely more ways exist. Sumaji, could you tell us a few more techniques?
The earliest form of storytelling exists in visual stories drawn on cave walls to the painting of Puranic stories on temple walls. Over time, visual stories became audio-visual. In Rajasthan, there's a tradition still. Stories are painted on wooden boxes and storytellers carry this covered as tools to relate stories. Tolu Pomalata in Andhra Pradesh and southern India refer to storytelling through puppetry, where movement is depicted along with story. Villipattu is another indigenous form of storytelling in Tamil Nadu, combining the use of a musical instrument, song and dialogue. Kuthu exists as Yakshagana in Karnataka. Kodiyatam still remains almost the only form of surviving Sanskritam drama in Kerala. Kadakalakshepam and Harikatha use music, sometimes dance and mime to extol the scriptures with more drama, humor, and philosophy. I have touched only a few of the myriad storytelling forms of our country.
Thank you, Sumaji. That's a lot in a nutshell. Most of our stories were in poetic form. Reggie, being a poet yourself, could you tell us something interesting in some ancient poetic stories?
Let me tell you about Meghaduta, an ancient Sanskrit lyrical poem by Kalidasa. It tells the story of a Yaksha who lives in exile on earth away from his beloved wife. In solitude and pain, he finds a cloud to send a message to her. In verse 35, Yaksha is paying a religious oblation to the cloud with Kudaja flowers and prays for the successful delivery of his message. The interesting point here is that Kudaja is mentioned in Charaka Samhita as an action-based drug to treat diarrhea. Yaksha is hoping that Kudaja will help the cloud in retaining his message by preventing any disassociation of the cloud until it reaches his wife. So it is obvious here that Kalidasa was aware of the medicinal properties of Kudaja and he is subtly mentioning it. So, be it a poem or a story, ancient authors are undoubtedly messengers of our great culture rooted in deep scientific wisdom.
That's amazing. We definitely should revisit our old stories again. Thank you all.
Thank you very much, Nishanji and Ashaji, for coordinating the whole essence of storytelling. Thank you. And now we have the presentation on Natya Shastram from Sujata Shankar, Aryamba, Lakshmi, and Shailaja.
Namaste, Lakshmi. Do you remember we went to Kalakshetra for a dance drama?
Namaste. Of course, before the play, the speaker quoted Bharata Muni. Na tat jnanam, na tat shilpam, na sa vidya, na sa kala, na so yogo, na tat karmam, na chesmin yenna drishyate, which means there is no knowledge, craft, art, yoga or action that is not within the ambit of performing arts.
Yes, true. Natya Shastra is a magnum opus. The syllables Bharata stand for Bhava, Raga and Tala. Dr. Balamurali Krishna interprets it as Bhakti, Rakti and Tanmayatvam, that is devotion, emotion and aesthetic sense.
Is it so? It is also known as the fifth Veda, since Lord Brahma drew literature from Rig Veda, music from Samaveda, expressions from Yajurveda, and aesthetics from Atharva Veda.
Whatever is its origin, it's certainly the oldest available Sanskrit treatise on dramaturgy which has had its influence from Afghanistan to Indonesia.
You know, Natya Shastra has also impacted areas like psychology, architecture, vocal and instrumental music, costume and makeup, and even yoga.
Natya Shastra is a seamless blend of Nritta, Nritya and Natya, elaborating on several hand gestures which stimulate activities of the brain. Similarly, the body stances translate to some of the yogic postures noted in the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali. The 108 Natya Karnas give us static elements to offset the dynamic movement of the dance. Performers require agility, strength, and stamina. All these inner qualities can be developed and maintained by practicing yoga.
Bharata Muni has not only elaborated the structure of a play, but also the structure in which the play is performed. From site selection, earth preparation, measurements of spaces, the stage, audience, green room, interior decoration, and even seating arrangements. The playhouse is of three types: square, rectangular, triangular, and also small, medium, and large in size. There are many interesting features. When the foundation is laid, musical instruments are to be sounded and payasam is to be served. There's a front door for audiences, a rear entry for performers, and privacy between the stage and the green room. There's a wooden railing prescribed at the stage edge to protect actors from intoxicated persons in the audience. Today, we have theatres with air conditioning, sound systems, etc. But the core design follows principles of Natya Shastra, especially in traditional theatres like at Kalamandalam.
Shall I share another feature? The Natya Shastra is based on an expansive understanding of human psychology. Bharata classifies the human emotion into 8 called the Ashtarasa. To put it simply, the emotions that are expressed by the performer are the bhavas, and that which is experienced by the audience is the rasa. Bharata Muni lists the process of each emotion, subjective experience, psychological response, and behavioral response of every character in various situations. Each of these Ashtarasas are associated with a specific color, a swaram or a musical note, and a deity. Shantarasa was added later on as the 9th rasa to make it the Navarasa today. Speaking of colors, I should talk about the costume and makeup. Bharata Muni classifies characters to be dressed according to their nature and the predominant mode in the play with appropriate choice of color, design, and ornamentation.
Apart from these subjects, Natya Shastra also covers music extensively. Natya Shastra provides the musical notes and scales to use for both vocal and instrumental music and addresses the usage of music with drama. Musical instruments are classified as string instruments, percussion instruments, wind instruments, and cymbals. And Natya Shastra provides the guidelines for making these instruments also. What is most amazing is the timeline of when this was all done. If you look at the timeline of performing arts, most of what we consume today via television, movies, internet, etc., was created in the last few hundred years, including the Carnatic music by the Trinity, Western classical music by Bach, Beethoven, Mozart, etc. The popular opinion states that Natya Shastra was written between 500 BCE and 500 CE, which puts it a couple of thousand years back. Experts such as Dr. Padma Subramaniam believe that Bharata Muni was a peer of Valmiki, which would put Natya Shastra on the same timeline as Ramayana, making it even more ancient.
Bharata actually provides intellectual freedom for continuity and change. Natya Shastra allows flexibility and adaptation of rules according to the needs of Kala and Desha, both time and place. What is profound is the very purpose of drama as a vehicle for the spectator to realize his own consciousness and awaken innate spiritual values. We felt this at the performance at Kalakshetra, right? Whether it was centuries ago or today, drama and all performing arts transport you to a totally different, elevated plane.
Exploring Natya Shastra was amazing.
Namaste.
Thank you. That was a very wonderful and informative presentation on Natya Shastra by Sujata Shankarji and Swaminathan Ganeshji and team. Thank you very much. And now we have the 6th presentation today by Kala, Kavita and Raj, the significance of Samskrita Dhwani.
Namaskaram. The universe of ours is throbbing with life in myriad forms, and where there is prana, there is dhvani. The Pranavanadam, or the primordial sound, is fundamental to Vedic chanting. From birth to death, there are as many as 16 different samskaras where Veda mantras are chanted. Are these just rituals that have lost their relevance? I do not understand the meaning of mantras. So are they still beneficial to me? Mananata trayate iti mantraha. So goes the saying. Or that which protects due to repeated utterance. Vedic mantras opens our minds to different levels of awareness, both biological and metaphysical. A chant or mantra is simply a reverberation. The person who chants derives certain beneficial effects from uttering it. My friend Raj will further explain the significance of Sanskritam mantras.
Dhanyavadah, Kavita. So, why Sanskrit? Why Samskritam? Because Samskritam stands for Samyukta Kritam, means purity at its best form. So, the question is, how can a language survive for 3,000 plus years without a library, without published books? That's because of the tradition of Sanskritam, where the knowledge was passed from generation to generation through memorizing and through chanting. So the power of chanting is quite immense. I'll allude to one study. It's done by one Dr. James Hartzell, an American neuroscientist. He did a study, he's also a Sanskrit scholar, and he did a study and where he compared people who chanted with people who didn't chant. And in his clinical studies, he found out that the cortical thickness increased, the size of the gray matter increased, the brain region around the memory area of brain increased. So these are clinical findings, actual findings. So chanting actually improves the memory power. Sanskritam has a power to heal as well as to annihilate. So there is an Atharva Veda mantra that says Mutra Mochana, and it has a power to heal failing kidneys. And of course, we've read in literature, and especially Mahabharata, where weapons were launched based on a mantra, and they had the ability to destroy. So with this kind of a power, there's also a saying in Sanskritam that says, Aksharam amantram nasti, which means there is no character, no letter in Sanskritam that cannot be used for a mantra. So to demonstrate more and elaborate more on this, there is Srimati Kala, who will expand more. Thank you.
Dhanyavadaha Raj Mahodaya. Sanskritam is all about dhvani. Urjayaha prakatikaranam dhvani rupena bhavati, or the physical manifestation of energy is vibration or sound. Our Vedas contain the science of sound. It lays down rules for how and when mantras are to be chanted, its speed, pitch, and intonation. Hence, mantras have the power to raise one's level of consciousness and to relax the mind. The best example would be our Indian classical music with its specific ragas for specific effects. I'd like to demonstrate to you how the arrangement of notes in a raga lends to the desired effect. I'll now like to sing to you Rag Neelambari for a calming effect and Ragam Kadana Kudugalam for a joyful experience. Sare magare sare mama dadani gaga pasasa ni da pa maga pa magare sare magare re madani da gaga pa sasa sani da pa magare sare re mama dadani ga pa pa sa sare re mama ga gare re sa sani ni da pa magare.
What a beautiful and melodious presentation. Thank you. So just as a conclusion to all the presentations, each one was so informative than the other. You can see how our ancient texts are a treasure and how they help us in today's world. You could see the various styles of storytelling, and then you saw how Nina enacted one of her stories and how we applied the Gita's inspirations to today's world, and finally how the dhvani of the shlokas influence and the influence of the Natya Shastram to our modern world. This is Itihasa. Can I invite Nina to please introduce our guest for today, Mrs. Aruna Visheshwar first, and then we'll have Mrs. Smita Visheshwar. Please unmute yourself, Nina.
Gosh, every time I look at those presentations, I'm like filled with wonder, Sujata. I think, I really again would like to thank Pravina Guru for entrusting us with this. And she was, let me tell you, she is a taskmaster, which I did not add earlier. She makes sure that she gets what she wants. And I think that's what we enjoy the most. Coming back to our chief guest for today, I'm so thankful that both Smita Visheshwar and Aruna Visheshwar, that's also coincidence, both of them have the same surname, have agreed to be with us this morning. I know it's difficult because I think they've been working all through the lockdowns. And I would like to thank Rati, my friend, for connecting me back to Mrs. Aruna Visheshwar, because when I was looking out for some special invitees, Rati is the one who suggested her name, and I'm so glad she did. Because her achievements are, they're immense. I don't even know where to start and where to end. So I'm just going to give a little tip on the iceberg of what she's all about. Some people are born to win and never stop winning. One such person is our special invitee for today, Mrs. Aruna Visheshwar. And I'm so glad, and I got connected to her on her birthday, and I'm so glad I did that, because her achievements are immense. I'm just going to say a few of those, and let me start with ma'am is the senior principal correspondent of the Adhyapana School, CBSE, Madurai. She promoted the school in June 2009, starting with 11 students, going up to 120 students, 127 students in the first year itself. School started in the outskirts of Madurai. In a matter of 6 years, school has grown in glory, surpassing all expectations. Current school strength is 1,401 pupils and 96 teachers. There's so many, it's outstanding, the school. The first batch of the standard 10 students appeared for board exam in March 2009. Phenomenal results. 3 students secured 500 by 500 marks. That is an overall grade. 11 students got about 92 overall. The balance 9 students got high first class. The second batch was a stellar performance as well, with 6 students securing, again, overall centums. And actually, they also got a special letter of commendation received from Mrs. Smriti Irani, the then Central HRD Minister. This is the school that ma'am manages. Coming back to, just to cut short at the final essence of it, the school has been listed in the top 3,000 schools of the country out of 4 lakh plus schools spanning all boards. Again, in the new list for 2019, Adhyapana is the only private CBSE school in the list of India's best schools. Only private CBSE school from Madurai for 2 consecutive years, 2018 and 2019. That requires a big applause from all of us. Coming back to her own awards, I think she has received every kind of award possible. And ma'am, we should also come and address our Duchess Club sometime. The personal awards have been Women's Achiever Awards by the Madras Madurai Management Association, the Best Principal District Principal Award, and the Exceptional Women Excellence Award in the year 2020 by the Women Economic Forum, Excellence in Education Award by the Rotary Club of Madurai West, the Global Innovative School Award 2019 by the BITS Pilani Dubai campus. I mean, it's endless. And the 100 Highly Effective Principal Award 2019, which was given by the AKS Education Awards. Ma'am, what really interests us in this whole thing, you know, with all this, you still have certain things that you do for yourself, which is wonderful. And that is, she's very competent at her computer, and the languages, highly proficient in English, Hindi, Tamil, and yes, Sanskrit, and a working knowledge in Malayalam and Thai. And a cookery. She's supposed to be a very good cook, trained under Mrs. Thangam Philip. And the training programs, she's an international trainer on individual development programs. And the last but not the least, her special skills, specially trained in Vastu Shastra, numerology, astrology, and Feng Shui. What more can I say? So, ma'am, the floor is open and please address us.
Thank you, Nina. Good morning to all the wonderful ladies and gentlemen present here. It is indeed an honor to be with all of you. And to be honest with you, I was not even prepared to be floored by all the knowledge and the learning that I see around and that I have myself got today. It is said, Sarva dravyeshu vidyaiva dravyam ahu anuttamam aharyatvat anarghatvat akshayatvat cha sarvada. I'm sure you all know this, but let me just elaborate. Of all the things in this world, Vidya is the only one thing that is the most valuable. Why? The reasons are also given. Aharyatvat, it cannot be stolen. Anarghatvat, it is priceless. Akshayatvat cha sarvada, and it can never deplete. Today, I have learned so much thanks to all of you, and it has been a wonderfully illuminating experience. About you, I have to say, I hope, I don't even know how much time I have to talk, but I must add this one shloka. As I was listening to all of you, there were all these shlokas coming into my mind, which I wanted to share. It is said, Vidya dadati vinayam, vinayat yati patratam, patratvat dhanam apnoti, dhanat dharmam, tataha sukham. Vidya dadati vinayam. Vidya gives rise to humility. Vinayat yati patratam. Humility gives rise to worthiness. Patratvat dhanam apnoti. From worthiness, wealth arises. Dhanat dharmam. From wealth arises dharma. Tataha sukham. And then the ultimate, the sukham that we all see. It is also said, Ko atibharaha samarthanam, kinduram vyavasayinam, ko videshaha savidyanam, kaha paraha priyavadinam. Today you have all proved this. What is so difficult? What is difficult for an able person? What is distance for an industry? What is alien for one armed with knowledge? Who is an outsider for one who loves people? Today, you have invited some of us, outsiders, if I may say so, but still, you know, it has been such a great experience. I must add here that I feel this has been a more remarkable journey in this style, through learning, acquiring knowledge, and a personal, permanent transformation of mind and the intellect. As I was listening to all of you, you know, being a teacher, I'm tempted to add something here. And I hope this will add to your learning if you have not already imbibed this. You know, when you were talking about Sanskrit, the shlokas, the mantras, the effect of the Sanskrit, the Natya Shastra, Pati's pearls, all of that, I was just thinking of, you know, adding my own wee bit to this. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, to be honest, Nina, I did not even get to know about what was lying in store. You know, this experience, this exhilaration, I am really floored. And I would therefore like to share this. You know, they say in Sanskrit, and we all know that Ucharanam is very, very important. I tell my students about the sthana or the place of pronunciation. It is there in English, it is there in Sanskrit, it is there in Hindi, Malayalam, Tamil, whichever language. There is a place for pronunciation. In English, we have not taught this specifically, but it is said you have the gutturals, dentals, labials, palatals, and so on. But in Sanskrit, it is very, very important, and that's where we actually start you know, teaching children, or at least I start. I have been a Sanskrit teacher for 19 years. And that's where I start teaching the children, because I do believe that pronunciation is very, very important. It is said, I'll just take you through a little bit of it. Akuha visarjaniyanam kantha. Kantha, we know, is the throat. A, ka, kha, ga, gha, nga, ha. So a, ku is the ka varga, ha, and the visarga. Visarga is the aha. All these come only from the throat. Akuha visarjaniyanam kantaha. Ichu yashanam talu. I, cha, cha. It is this option that is used. I. So you don't actually use the kantha alone. It is actually a vibration from the ear to the throat. I, cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. Ichu, ya. All these come from the talu. This is called the talu. Ritu rasana murdha. R. It has to come from here. Ta, tha, da, dha, na, sa. All these. So you're not using the throat. So if you see, the sound is actually coming from deep down in your throat to the front of your mouth. Riturasanam talu. Ritulasanam dantaha. Ta, tha, da. You're using your teeth. The tongue with the teeth. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. That is the danta. Upu padmaniyanam oshtau. U. Pa, pa, ba, ba, ma. You are using only your oshta, haunt. So the lips. The Sanskrit grammar, friends, according to me, because I'm also a lover of mathematics, must tell you, it's very, very mathematical and precise. There are no, you know, or that, can I say it like this? Can I say you're right or you're wrong? You know your grammar or you don't know your grammar? Today, when I was listening to all of you and, you know, hearing the wonderful presentations, I was transported to my early days of learning Sanskrit, my interest in Sanskrit, which actually came, you said about the Bhagavad Gita. My Sanskrit rose from just one shloka. Bhagavad Gita kinchita dhita, Ganga jalala kanika pita, sakrita piyena murari samarcha, kriyete tasya yamena na charcha. Bhagavad Gita kinchita dhita. If you've learned the Bhagavad Gita, I even read it a wee bit. Ganga jalalava kanika pita. If you've had a little, one drop of the Ganga jal. Sakrita piyena murari samarcha. If you've thought about the Almighty, even for 1 minute, Yama cannot do anything. You will never go to hell. Yama cannot do anything to you. That is where my interest in Sanskrit arose. And to be honest with you, I have loved every minute of this remarkable journey. And to you, ladies and gentlemen, you know, that I would like to conclude by saying, Udyamene hi siddhyanti karyani na manorathaihi nahi suptasya simhasya pravishanti mukhe mrigaha. Suptasya simhasya mukhe mrigaha na pravishanti. The lion wants the deer as his food, as its prey. But even the lion, if it is sleeping with its open mouth, the deer will not enter. The deer does not say, oh, you mighty lion, you are the lord of the forest, I am your food, so please I will come and fall into your mouth. Even the lion has to work to get its food. Likewise, udyamena hi siddhyanti karyani. Whatever we want to achieve, we have to work for it. I have seen the result of all that work that you've put in. There has been, I'm sure there has been a lot of planning, observing, understanding, team spirit, camaraderie, so on and so forth. Hats off to all of you. Brilliant. I have to congratulate each and every one of you. Thank you, Neena, for giving me this wonderful opportunity for reconnecting. And I see many of my old friends there in that group. Rati, I owe you a big thanks to have brought me into an elite group of scholars, avid learners, people who are interested in knowing the unknown, to see the unseen. Thank you. God bless all of you. I also would like to extend a warm welcome to Madurai. If at all any of you is coming down here, we have a school. I would love you to address my children. It has been a great, passionate experience. Thank you. God bless.
Thank you so much, Aruna ji.
Gosh, what else can we feel but gratitude and love and admiration? Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Neena. Thank you.
Thank
God
you
bless.
for inspiring us. Thank you so much.
Beautiful.
Our next guest today is Smita Visheshwar. Welcome, Smita.
Yes.
Smita Visheshwar is the founder, director of Sprouts Montessori House of Children in Chennai, Mylapore, and co-founder of the Nishkam Trust, which is a Chennai-based NGO which focuses on Montessori education in Chennai Balwadis and Anganwadis. She is a dedicated educator, a mentor, a leader, as well as a wife and a mother, and recently a mother-in-law too. Smita believes strongly that the benefits of a Montessori education, particularly in one's early years, should be available to all, regardless of background or economic status. She is also a strong believer in the power of education to empower the educator as much as the student, and using the teaching profession as a means to create women leaders. On a personal note, Smita and myself have studied together in a school in Kolkata, Modern High School. And it's kudos to Smita to start this Montessori in Chennai, and where she has so many students and she helps so many underprivileged students also. Stage is all yours, Smita.
Thank you, Sujata Bhabi. I'm absolutely overwhelmed after listening to Aruna ji. And I'm absolutely, a beginner in this journey of Sanskrit, and I have a lot to learn from you. So on this note, a very big namaskaram to all of you, and a very heartfelt thanks to each one of you for inviting me. Thank you, Sujata Bhabi, for inviting me and letting me experience such a beautiful event. When she told me about Vidyanidhi, I was very curious to know what Vidyanidhi is all about. And very, very true to its meaning, the wealth of knowledge is what I've absorbed in the last 1.5 hours. And it's absolutely left me spellbound and with so much of an information. From the logo designing, which had so much of depth in it, the color, the concept, the meaning behind it was beautiful. It was, absolutely so informative. All the six presentations was a wealth of knowledge. And definitely I will, as a founder director of Sprouts Montessori, I would definitely like to take it forward to all the children, because many aspects of it doesn't have to, they have to learn from the very childhood, and it has to become a way of life. Many of those values which were showcased, especially of what you should, why you should do what you should do, if is something which has to be taught them in the school days. And Sprouts actually believes in, in the making, in the emotional quotient of the child, the spiritual quotient, and the physical development. And when all these aspects are taken care of, automatically intelligence will follow. So I think this is what Vidyanidhi is all about, the cultural values, and with understanding and meaning, taking the history to the children of our culture is what we would also like to, which we would like to take it forward to our children also at Sprouts. And let's see in what different ways we can collaborate with Vidyanidhi to do this. Thank you, one and all. It has been a beautiful experience. So experience as 1.5 hours. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Smita, for taking out time and being with us. And thank you for agreeing to take it to your children and collaborating with us, which is definitely our motive at Vidyanidhi, to go ahead to Gyananidhi. Thank you so much. I thank both our guest speakers, and now I invite Praveena Guruji to please come up and say a few words.
Namaste to the entire Vidyanidhi team, the guests who are here to support our knowledge initiative, and the special guest, Srimati Smita Vishweshwar and Srimati Aruna Vishweshwar. It's been such a fulfilling start of the day. Profound and insightful thoughts were presented in such simple, digestible, and interesting manner. The amount of time, energy, effort, dedication, and enthusiasm put in by every participant in the team gives confidence, and it's basically the driving force for us to move to the next Gyananidhi series. Tomorrow, as you all have seen, shows the huge knowledge treasure that our ancestors have handed over to us. So, coming to us today, like what we saw in the different scenarios exhibited, it was all real life scenarios. There are a lot of futuristic points. We saw that in one of our Vidyanidhi episodes, in the first episode.
Sorry,
mentioned,
sorry, your voice is a little unclear.
Is this clear? The entire concept of yesterday is equal to tomorrow shows the huge knowledge treasure that our ancestors have handed over to us. So many aspects of it is relevant to us today, like what we saw in the different scenarios that were exhibited. And a lot of things about the future is also mentioned, which is very interesting. We saw that in our 5th episode of Vidyanidhi series. So many such futuristic knowledge are also mentioned in our treasures. One of the greatest treasures that our ancestors have given out, like what was mentioned in our special invitees talk, was the Samskrita Bhasha itself, the significance of sound. So it uses all parts of our mouth. In fact, it's mentioned that the size of some parts of the brain region, which is associated with the cognitive function, actually expands when we recite Sanskritam. And these are now facts. They come in the news items and are not just claims anymore. Very interesting things like the space and the time units, make us think about what were our ancestors thinking about. Today we speak about time in terms of hours, minutes, and seconds. But if we look at the ancient scriptures, it does not stop with seconds. They go several layers to divide the seconds into further units, which goes all the way to Anu and Paramanu, which is like atomic in nature. So much of depth of knowledge was given. And it's not just about the subtler things, even about the time concept. It is not just 1 year, which is the bigger unit. They go to a year cycle of 60 years. and all the way to a Kalpa, a Manvantara, and Chatur Yugas being repeating itself, so on and so forth. So it is another huge information which is there as far as time is concerned, similar concept for space. And when we think of every single aspect, that is a grantha by itself, that is a study by itself. So much of huge treasure is there. We touched on some aspects of it in our Vidyanidhi. One such topic was the time dilation, which I was really surprised when I learned it for the first time earlier. We spoke about the story of King Kakudmi in one of our sessions, where the king visits Brahmaloka and he wants to know the right bride, right groom for his daughter. And he waits for Brahma, who's listening to a concert. And when it's over, he's checking with Lord Brahma, I have these few people in my mind. Who do you think is the right person, to give my daughter in marriage? And then Brahma starts laughing. You were here for 28 minutes, which is equivalent to 27 Chaturyugas. So a lot of time has lapsed. And any of those who are in your mind are not going to be available now. So you go there. By that time, the avatar of Lord Krishna and Lord Balarama would happen. And Lord Balarama would be the right groom for your daughter Revati. And the story goes further where Revati gets married to Balarama. So this speaks about the concept of time dilation. Think about it. These are not just episodes that happen in our literature. There is so much of science, and it keeps us thinking about, how did people know about all this? Or is it just a one-off thing that happened in one of the Puranas? But it's repeated in many other places. There is another story which is about a story which happened in pre-Ramayana time. So think about the timeline there. It is about King Muchukunda. And he was the son of Mandata, who was an ancestor of Lord Rama in the Ikshvaku lineage. So there was a battle between the Devas and the Asuras. So the Devas wanted a able, powerful commander-in-chief. And they sought the help of King Muchukunda. So think about his valor. He decided to be the commander-in-chief of the Devas and goes and fights for them against the Asuras. And later on, Lord Skanda, the son of Lord Shiva, takes over the role of commander-in-chief, and Muchukunda is relieved of his role and comes back to earth. So at that point, he's surprised to realize that none of what he left was there. Everything had changed with time. And he checks with Indra, and Indra says, yes, 1 year of the time in Indraloka is equal to 360 years in Bhuloka. So yes, a lot has elapsed. You came here during the Treta Yuga time, and now it's Dwapara Yuga. So everything that you own is not available for you. Now the king doesn't know what to do. So he says that I'm extremely exhausted by, fighting there. Think about it. We don't sleep for a day or two or max a week. We are so fatigued. Now this king goes on for yugas together without proper sleep. So he says, just give me a boon where I want to sleep. So he's blessed with a boon to go and sleep. And anybody who disturbs him will, be fired, will be fired to death, basically. That was the boon that was given to the king. Now, with that boon, he goes and sleeps. And Lord Krishna, during the Dwapara Avatara, uses this to his advantage, where there was one person who wanted to invade Dwaraka and Kalayavana. So when he had the boon that he was invincible because of a boon of Lord Shiva, he uses, Lord Krishna uses this to his advantage and makes him go and disturb Muchukunda. So the moment Muchukunda opens his eyes, Kalayavana is burnt to ashes. So it is a story. What is important to us is the time dilation concept is again repeated here as a matter of fact. So much of knowledge is mentioned in our scriptures where the time is different in Indraloka as against our Loka. The time is different in Brahmaloka as against our Loka. So many interesting things like that are mentioned as pre-Ramayana stories, and it is repeated in Mahabharata as a reference to it, basically connecting the two itihasas of Ramayana and Mahabharata together, though it was compiled by two different authors at two different times. What an amazing thread actually evolves here. And there are so many other scriptures, when I was just thinking about the numbers that is mentioned in the Brihat Vimana Shastra, there is a mention about the number of comets. And the phrase says that the number of comets in the 8th level of the celestial sphere is 307,03,331. And I'm like, oh my God, how did they even get this number there? So these kind of amazing information are given to us. Think of anything, medicine. The details mentioned by Sage Sushruta, who is celebrated as the father of plastic surgery, is relevant even today. Today, rhinoplasty has taken a different shape, but the same procedure with which Sage Sushruta has used is still relevant after thousands and thousands of years. Think about the concept of aeronautics, flying machines, submarine, ship. It sees a mention across so many different granthas, be it Ramayana, Mahabharata, different Puranas, even the Vedas mention about Vimanas. And very interestingly, there is a separate exclusive grantha called Vaimanika Shastra, which mentions about all these things in details. Again, about astronomy, we went in detail with all that in the Vidyanidhi. The memory that water has was something which was exciting for all of us, and the importance of giving positive thoughts when a woman conceives her baby, because the child acquires knowledge while still in the womb. So we discussed a lot of these things, and for any of you who's interested, it's all available in our repository. Our YouTube has all the recordings of the entire Vidyanidhi series. Sujata Mundra would share that in our chat window. Whoever wants can just go there and have a look at all these videos. And philosophy is a huge treasure which is not available anywhere else. The kind of thinking, the logic, the debates that is found in our scriptures can't be found anywhere else. So with all this as the background, all of us know that we have such great knowledge treasure in Bharatam. There is a lovely Subhashita which says, Acharyat Padama Datte, Padam Shishya Swamedhaya, Padam Sabrahmacharibhyaha, Padam Kalakramena Cha. This explains about the way we learn. So the first 1/4 of the knowledge that we are supposed to gain is gained by listening to the lectures of the teacher. So when I decided to share this concept of Vidyanidhi with all of you, I started it as a lecture series where all of you could be part of it. And whatever little I have learned over a period of time with several decades of efforts put in, I took this opportunity to share it with all of you. And that itself is a tip of the iceberg. And in the tip of the iceberg, 1/4 of that knowledge could be communicated through our knowledge sharing series. But then for the next 1/4, it says we have to introspect whatever we learned. Acharya Padamadatte, Padam Shishya Swamedaya. With his own intelligence, whoever is a learner has to explore, introspect, try to understand, connect the dots, everything. So I was thinking, how do we share this? Because in our formal academic curriculum, all these are not available. Our traditional knowledge is not available, but we have to make it available to everybody who is interested. And the third part is Padam Sabrahmacharibhyaha. So the next one part of knowledge, or the third one part, is gained only by discussion with peers. So I was just thinking on how to implement step 2 and step 3. Step 1 was done as part of the Vidyanidhi series. Now, how do we make people, introspect? Because how much ever we talk, it starts and it ends there. So how do we make everybody think about it? How do we make interaction possible? Because in Vidyanidhi, Max is asking a question. Interaction more than that is not possible. So that was the birth of the Jnananidhi series, where like today, all of you can be part of different groups where you read your own scriptures, you discuss it with your peers, you come out with different ideas, and then make simple presentation in small, understandable capsules, because it is our responsibility to pass this treasure to the next generation. Our ancestors have given a huge gift. We have to utilize this gift and then transfer it to the next generation. It is our duty, in fact. So these 2 steps is the reason why we are going into the Jnananidhi, where we learn, we understand whatever topic is of interest to us from the ancient perspective. We get it into our muscles, we discuss it with our team, and then come out with simple things which can be translated and shared across with anybody else. There is a Rigveda mantra which says, Ano Bhradra Kritavo Yantu Vishwataha, which means let noble thoughts come from all directions. So we'll accept thoughts from all the directions and utilize the gift that our ancestors have given us, because there is so much of treasure that we have here. And this is not just a simple thing like a group discussion that is happening here. We are doing such a great thing by bringing out this Jnananidhi series. In the words of Lord Krishna, he says in the 17th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the 15th sloka, he explains about the significance of the words, the power of the words that we use. Lord Krishna says, Anudvegakaram vakyam satyam priyam hitam chayat swadhyaya bhyasanam chaiva vangmayam tapa uchyate. He explains words and divides it into 4 important attributes which need to be qualified before we utter our words. He says, Anudvegakaram. Udvegam means anything which can cause pain, which can hurt. He says, Anudvegakaram. The words that we use should not be hurtful at all. So that vakyam should be satyam, which is truthful. Priyam, it should be pleasant. Hitam, it should be beneficial. And our ancestors go to, every subtle details of whatever is mentioned, and it says chayat, which means just one of these traits is not sufficient. It should be a combination of all these 4 things. So for our words to be qualified or be treated as worthy, it should be anudvegakaram, which is it should not hurt anybody. It should be satyam, truthful. It should be priyam, pleasing. It should be beneficial, hitam. So if the words are like this, and then Krishna adds swadhyayat vyachanam saiva, which means the study of scriptures, the scriptural text, if it is included in it, Krishna elevates it to a very, very different level. He calls it as Vangmayam Tapa Uchyate. This is nothing but a Vangmaya Yajna. Krishna says Yajna means it's not just, having a fire and doing the rituals. That is one form of Yajna. But you can have Yajna in different formats. And when your words adhere to these scriptures, it implements the practices, and it is Anudvegakaram, Satyam, Priyam, Hitam, then the entire experience is Vangmaya Tapam. It is an austerity of speech. So what we are here in today, the Jnananidhi series, is not just a casual discussion among friends. Our thought process is very clear. It is to transfer this wonderful treasure which our ancestors have handed over to us across generations, to ensure that it is transferred to the next generation and it does not leave us, So with that as the objective, we are creating these small methodologies where our knowledge can be transferred in a very, very simple, meaningful, digestible, interesting capsules to everybody across. And this is a Vak Yajnam, I would say. So I request all of you to join this Jnananidhi series, even those who are not part of our Vidyanidhi. Please join this Jnananidhi series. You don't need so much of knowledge of Sanskritam. You don't need a traditional knowledge, because this is the study. You're coming here to understand the scriptures. You're coming here to discuss with everybody. All that is required is the inclination to understand our scriptures and time dedicated to the Yajna. So if we can afford these two, we can ensure that this gets transferred to the next generation. And that is a duty of each of us who owe so much to our ancestors. So this is something like our reciprocation or our gratitude to our ancestors. We thank our ancestors for all the treasures they've given us, and we do a little part to get qualified in Krishna's eyes to be doing this as a Vangmaya Yajna. I would like to conclude with a 2-minute story. There was this Bhikshuka. Bhikshuka is one who has his living by begging for alms. Now he goes to every single house every single day, and then he asks people like, please give me alms. So please give me money. I need food. I need clothing. I need shelter. So for every single aspect of his life, he looks up to others to support him to live. And some give him money, some put some coins in him, some just show him off. And Some people say like, why are you doing this? Why can't you just earn by yourself? A lot of advisors come. So after all the humiliation, he just comes, he sits under this tree and he thinks, this tree is the only place which gives me so much of happiness. I can utilize whatever alms I've taken, eat here and have such a living. But then in his dream, he thinks about having a luxurious living. He thinks about what would it be if I am rich? The comfort of living. He visualizes a huge bungalow in which he lives. He visualizes his transports that he can have. He thinks of himself in smart clothing, interacting with people. A lot of things comes in his dreams. The next morning, he's again back to his diksha. His life goes on. Now comes his time where he has to depart from earth. So he calls his son and he says, look, my days are nearing his end. So I just have one request from you. I've been spending my entire life, the little bit of happiness that I had was under this tree. So please do my final rituals under this tree itself, the place where I spent my life. The son says, okay, and then he obliges. So this person passes on and the son digs the place. And to the son's surprise, he sees a huge treasure trove right under the place where this Bhikshuka was sitting. So he sees a treasure box, coins of gold, silver. He sees rubies, he sees pearls, he sees diamonds, everything right under the place where this person was sitting. Now the son thinks, was my father actually rich because he was sitting on top of so much of richness? Or was he actually poor because he was asking everybody to support his basic lifestyle? So what was he? Think about this story. When we introspect this story, it is we who are looking everywhere else. What is this? What is that? Can I have more information on this? And looking for so much of outside support when our ancestors have given us such a huge treasure trove. Everything is there in our scriptures. Everything is there. All what we want, irrespective of the topic in hand, we have everything which we can use. All we have to do is open the gift. Like the person who digged could find so many things. It keeps coming. It's unending, right? We'll have all the treasures that's available. All we have to do is open the gift, utilize it, and pass it on to the subsequent generation. So here I would like to encourage all of you to join our Jnana Yajna, the Jnana Nidhi series. Jayatu Bharatam, Dhanyavadaha.
Thank you, Guru. And a very, very big dhanyavad from all your Vidyanidhi participants for leading us to Jnananidhi. And yes, you are a storehouse of so many stories, so much of knowledge that if we can help you and take the duty and responsibility to share with others, it would be really nice. Thank you so much, Guru. And now can we ask any of our Vidyanidhi participants, the core team, to share their experience, if they would like to come ahead and share their experience of doing the presentation and coordinating it? Any of the co-committee people? Yes, Asha, please unmute yourself.
Namaskaraha. What an enriching program. Amazing presentations and amazing speakers. So thank you very much, Praveena Bhagini, for this wonderful session. Now coming back to the making of the video, it was an enriching experience because there is so much to learn every day, every minute, if only we can open our eyes, ears, and take in that knowledge. With 5 of us on the team, Nishant Mahodaya, Anu Bhagini, Reji Bhagini, Suma Bhagini, and yours sincerely. We worked out a plan and we wanted Nishant Mahodaya to be the Sutradhar who would introduce the others. And when we kind of discussed about this topic, so many things came into the fore and we had to do a video which was like 1 minute. I think we just went over by a few seconds. So it was all about concentrating on the core aspect of storytelling and the techniques of storytelling. And I think we kind of brought out the essence of storytelling and the techniques that our wonderful country has been using throughout the centuries, and never forgetting the fact that we are standing on the shoulders of giants who walked this earth much before us. So thank you very much for giving us the team. On behalf of the team, I would like to thank Pravina Bhagini for giving us this opportunity to showcase at least a little bit of this wonderful ocean called stories and storytelling that our country is so rich in, the oral tradition. So thank you very much. Dhanyawad.
Thank you so much, Asha Bhagini. I know each and everybody of us would like to give a feedback and give their views, but I think we are running short of time, Guru.
Okay, whoever is interested can share.
Okay, Kala. I think Kala wants to say something.
Namaskaraha. Dhanyawadaha to all the people who have gathered here to encourage us this morning. You asked me what the experience was. It is truly humbling. Humbling would be the word, because I first of all like to thank my team, Raj Mahodaya and Kavita Bhagini, for putting this together. And I took up this topic because it was close to me, like music, and my topic was sounds of Sanskritam, or the significance of Dhvani. So as I am interested in music, I thought it would be a cakewalk, I mean, to put it mildly. And it's only, I mean, I must thank my guru who guided me in this research. And as I delved into the source material, I just realized that it was overwhelming, actually, the amount of information that was available. And I didn't know what am I going to do in 5 minutes time. So with Guru's guidance, I was able to somehow put something together. I hope you all liked it. Basically, when I opened up, I realized there are so many words for sound. We use the word sound so casually, but whereas in Sanskritam, there is Dhvani, Shabdam, Sruti, and how it is received, it has got another meaning. So each word is not sound, it is slightly different from the other. So I realized that I have a huge wealth of knowledge, and in small time, and my level of knowledge is much lesser. So, but I'm very grateful that I've been introduced to this, and I realize what I know is like a grain of sand, and there is an ocean out there for me to learn. And I'm extremely grateful to Guru Pravina and my team for helping me put up this thing. And in the process, I feel very enriched, and I realize that there's a long way for me to go. Dhanyawadaha.
Dhanyawada, Kala Bhagini. Anyone else would like to say anything? Yes, Sushi. Could you unmute yourself?
Yeah, I'm trying. Good morning, everyone. What a morning this has been. Thank you all very much. I really don't fit in this thing. All of you are very knowledgeable, and I think I'm somewhere at the bottom. But that helps. To be there and to learn helps. My primary focus is on children. My entire focus is on education and kids. That's my interest. And if from this, if we can take, we can take some of this into schools or to children's groups and get them to be more aware, because that's where the future is. We are all a generation that will not be around for very long. We really need to attack the younger generation. And if we can use the basis that Guru Pravina has introduced us to, and get to the children and actually make a difference, that would make me very satisfied. And for putting me on that first step, thank you very much, Pravina. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sushi Bhagini. I request Shailaja to say a few words. She wanted to share some words. Shailaja? Yes, please unmute yourself.
I'm sorry I'm not addressed appropriately for this, but the topic was so important that I thought from whatever else I was doing, it's been interesting being here from 8:45. I should actually thank Anand for connecting his wife Pravina to me because of Cinema Rendezvous. That's where several things started. And going on from making salad for parties to learning small slokas from her, it was a deepening of interest. And I remember through Wanderlust, the temple tours we started, and so it's through several Gajani Madri attacks that one the slowly Nina Reddy friends எல்லாரையும் உருவி brought into this is beautiful. First time Praveena spoke to at the Duchess Club was when we did our dance for Navratri, and then the Triplicane trip we went. And then going into Sanatana Dharmam class, when I got some of our friends from Cinema Rendezvous like Asha, Raji and all, we all attended the Sanatana Dharmam class, which deepened. And so last December, when Nina was on this spree of learning because of the lockdown, and so many of us joining for the spoken Sanskritam, I've often had a problem keeping up these commitments because of other interests. But for me, it's really beautiful, especially feel very special with the Natya Shastra group, because I know it's a topic I started, and as it kept pushing because of something else, I couldn't continue on with it. But we've been working together on this in little ways, and you would have seen how amazing it is, not just the subject. And every time it's very interesting to see, for those of you who are not part of the core team or the Vidyanidhi team, the way these groups work within ourselves, and how as a guru, as a teacher, Praveena just nudges people forward and then it ripples. I think that's how everything in society should be, because it's not about being together all the time. It's about creating ripples and taking it on like paper floating on the water. So much of knowledge in there. I'm sure we're going to be doing it, not just with schools. I think there are bigger purposes, including bigger social arena like political parties, people who speak Tamil, Tamil scholars. That's another area I specifically like to work, because not to have these language differences, but to see the worthiness and how actually Tamil carries on Sanskritam, or how Sanskritam has so much of the Tamil Dravidian things we speak about, that there's no divide between what they say, the Aryan or the Dravidian. Immense possibilities. It's so happy that so many of us are coming together like this. Every presentation was amazing. I was so excited. Thank you.
Thank you, Shailija Bhagini, and thank you for introducing us, all of us, to Praveena Guru. And we would request all of you to be in touch with us on Facebook and YouTube, and be in touch with us for the following Gyananidhi series. Kiran, could you please share the links also on the group? And I have to thank Kiran from EDP Savera for being with us throughout this program, helping us with all the presentations and all the technical details. Thank you, Kiran, so much for being with us, as always.
I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate each one of you for putting in so much of effort, the dedication, the time, the energy, the enthusiasm, which is contagious, I would say. One team does something, they discuss, some other ideas crop up. Can we incorporate it? It would be midnight or past midnight. Can some changes be done here or there? Is the pronunciation in this right or not? So many things, so much of information has gone here. It's really been a wonderful learning experience for each one of us. So I would say a big congratulations. I didn't want to say a thank you, because it's all, you're a part of me. So it's not a different thing for me to say a thanks, but I'm really, really happy the way it's come out, and we will take this forward. This is the first step. So in our Jnananidhi series, let's explore the different aspects given by our ancestors and take this forward. Dhanyavada.
Thank you so much. And before we finish, we would like Asha Sampath to please give the finishing shloka.
The Shanti Mantra. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayaha, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kaschit dukkha bhag bhave. Om Shanti. Shanti, Shanti.
Thank you so much.
Namaste.
Namaste. Can we have a group picture with everybody on the screen? One screenshot before we finish. Yes. One. Yes, everybody out on the screen. The entire Vidyanidhi group. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Yes, taken. Thank you.
Dhanyavadaha. Namaste. See you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, you're saying something, Shailaja?
Raji has been raising her hand.
Cut the recording and then we can talk.
Yeah.
I mean,
Guru,
not recording, live.
Guru, you can stop the